Hey, if you're scrolling through YouTube and you're looking for some videos about relationships, we have lots of those.
Ah! Oh! Oh!
In this video, we're going to talk about relationship modeling, which does not mean putting on pretty clothes and having your picture taken with your partner.
Unless you think of your own life as a runway.
I mean, kinda, I guess. This is more about how you are playing out your life, interactions, and relationships based on what you have seen,
Yeah.
the examples you're following, and I think that's it. I
Yeah.
think that's it. That's what it's about.
Human beings are wide open computers without software and data and programs running in it. And when we grow up, the people in our life install all that stuff in us.
Yeah.
So whatever you're playing out in your life right now is probably a direct reflection of what you saw growing up.
So before we get too far into this, we want to share with you an ebook offering that we have. It's called Gen X Starting Over. The other thing that we have is a video series on the book that I wrote called How to Be an Awesome Ex and a Kick-Ass Partner, because that's important too. You can get a free video series on that, or you can get the ebook for free. There's a link below for that. But Gen X Starting Over ebook is going to be full of tips for staying happy when you start a relationship later in life.
Yes. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing this video with you.
So we are here to be relationship models.
Yes.
Because we've been through enough crap and we've
role
learned a
model.
few things and we've come through it, fallen on our heads, gotten up,
Yep.
whatever, you know.
Had enough blows to the head in my life.
Yeah, so here we are.
So both of us grew up in very different households, very different family models.
So your first models are obviously your parents and the adults around you, your
Yep.
family, extended family, even siblings in relationships, aunts and uncles. All of those people are showing you how to treat each other, how to be, how to talk to each other, all the things.
You want to tell us about your family growing up?
I grew up in a very normal middle-class suburban neighborhood with mostly families with 2 kids and a picket fence and a dog. Pretty much. So a very average normal lifestyle as far as that goes. My dad worked, my mom was home with us. I didn't actually have a latchkey when I was a kid. My mom was home. But we grew up in a neighborhood where all the kids hung out together and the parents were friends. So we did kind of have that neighborhood feeling. It was pretty easy, pretty uncomplicated. I had what I needed. I could go into my house. I drank out of the hose by choice because I thought that was neat. But as far as a lot of Gen X people growing up, there was a lack of that adult example of being in a healthy relationship, I think.
Yeah,
So
that's
as far as my experience, it wasn't traumatizing or difficult, and I did have an extended neighborhood family and a lot of friends.
So how would you say that what you saw affected your relationships? Like, when did you really start trying to have relationships, and what did you notice looking back was being mirrored in those relationships from what you saw in your modeling?
I think that when you're a kid and you're trying to figure out how to be in the world and how to interact. We were never really taught how to interact with other people. We were never taught about dating. We were never taught about healthy sexuality. We were given some crazy spiel in 5th grade about how sex will basically get you diseases and pregnant and then, things like that. So
boy!
in 5th grade, before you're even equipped to understand these things. So we were kind of given the, just don't ever date and don't ever have sex and please, so we weren't ever given any education. And I think that's the biggest foundation with our generation is there was very little education in how to relate other than following examples.
Yeah.
So for me, I definitely stumbled and fumbled along and just started seeking out connection and exploring and trying to figure it out for myself because I really didn't know. So as I grew through my teenage years, and my idea was, well, I'm supposed to do that. So I should get married and have 2 kids and a dog. That's pretty much what I knew I should do. And in a lot of ways, that's exactly what I did. So there's no regret in that situation and process and the way that my life unfolded. But I don't know that I would have chosen that if I had been given education, other options, and maybe, just the consideration of what do you really want. So
True.
you had a different situation.
Yeah, it was a bit more contrasty. My mother was a hippie, an actual hippie. I was born in 1970, so I'm an actual flower child. And my mother was sort of like the dark black sheep of the family. She had a brother and a sister, my uncle and my aunt, and my grandparents, the post-war generation. And my dad and my mom never wanted to be parents because they were 20 and like 21. So I was part of the wave of single parent children in the 70s. Mm-hmm. It wasn't cool to be a single parent until like the 80s.
Yeah.
Like that, it didn't get like lifted up as some sort of a virtue till, the 80s at some point. But my upbringing was very erratic because my mom, she was 20 when I was born. So we moved a lot.
You moved a lot.
I went to 18 different schools.
That's a lot.
And it wasn't military,
This
it wasn't
not...
some noble service.
Yeah.
It was just like, what do I want? I don't know. I met this guy. We're moving to Illinois. Oh, it didn't work out. Moving back to Michigan with my mom and dad. Hey, I found a place of my own. Hey, look, I found this guy. We're moving to, so it was a lot of that.
And I think a lot of that for you created a lack of ability to put roots down.
Yeah.
And feel like you were home. You've said this to me. So,
Oh, yeah.
To feel like you were at home, other than the grandparents' house, which was probably your home base and, safety net for all of it.
Yeah, I was blessed with two sets of grandparents that were just the epitome of security and safety and peace and calm. And, they had their life settled other than the crazy children they were raising.
So how did their relationships influence you as far as what they modeled?
On my mom's side, my grandparents were never affectionate. They never dealt with what was true, but they always took care of me really well.
I think that's that generation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in that generation, and that's something we have to just understand, that they do the best they can with what they know and understand.
Yeah.
And we all do, really.
So I look back on them, and I can see the truth, and with compassion and empathy go, well, it makes sense now. But when you're 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, right. 11, you're moving for the 10th time, you're saying goodbye to your friends. The modeling I had left me with a sense of not knowing really who my real self was. I didn't really know how to communicate because about every 6 months I would move. And what I saw as a pattern was, well, I'm only going to be here. I didn't realize this even consciously. I'm going to be here for such a short amount of time. I need to maximize my exposure. So I'd create all this bullshit about my life and who I was. And I'd get a lot of attention. And then before the wool pulled off everyone's eyes, we were in a U-Haul heading back to grandparents' house.
So you got to be a chameleon almost. You
Constantly.
could really just be whoever you wanted and tell whatever stories and make up anything.
Yeah, and I didn't really have boundaries because my mom never asked me, hey, do you want to move? Hey, do you want to abandon all the friends you just made? Hey, do you have a problem watching this boyfriend I have beat me? These were not questions that were asked in any kind of thoughtful way.
Yeah.
So for me, a lack of boundaries, a lack of understanding who I was, how to really connect and how to communicate with people. So guess what a lot of my relationships look like in my own personal life. Overpowering female presence, i.e. my mother. They say young men will always grow up to date and marry their mother. So I had a lot of that playing out in my relationships, and it took a long time for me to even understand how those two Legos went together.
I think there's a difference between overpowering women and powerful women.
Yeah.
And I think you saw both of those things, but you didn't understand those things. So
no conversations about that.
Yeah, so your modeling was like very unhealthy, overpowering.
Yeah.
And that was normal. So the reason we're making this video and talking about this thing right now is because your experience and what you've seen and how you've lived, it's not your fault. It's completely that you are a product of how you grew up, and that has to be okay because it's what happened. So we have to have compassion for ourselves and our own journeys in this. because no matter what that looks like for you, and no matter what you've been through and what you've seen and what you've watched other people go through in your, in front of you as a child, like this is very, very intense stuff. You can heal from it and overcome it. And if you're watching this and you're feeling there's a lot of intensity around that, we're not therapists.
No.
We're not here to help you unravel all of the abuses that you witnessed as a child. That's not what we're doing. But to bring awareness to that isn't your fault. And if you're holding on to that and it's affecting you and your relationships, go talk to a licensed therapist and get that unraveled and really dig into how to heal that in yourself.
Because the real talk that we will give you is neither of us would ever say your current patterns, the ones that you're maybe not aware of, the modeling that you're playing out in your own life, we're never going to tell you that you deserve to be treated the way you were as a kid, whether it was glorious or completely, corrupt and awful. Whatever the case is, until you are aware of it, you are the sum total of the parts that were put into you. Mm-hmm. But the hard part of this is once you become aware of it, you can't make excuses for it anymore, and you have to own it. So if you know that there's modeling in your past that's affecting your present, it's on you to fix it, because think about how much of a challenge it is just to change your own personal life. Mm-hmm. Do you think you're ever going to say or have a conversation or write a hot take that's ever going to change someone else so fundamentally? Like if somebody didn't give you what you wanted in your upbringing, they're probably not capable of giving it to you now in your adulthood. Mm-hmm. So you can't expect it from other people. You have to start with yourself.
Yeah, dig back into that and understand that as you become an adult, if you're watching this, you're likely more in our age range. We speak directly to Gen X because we've all been through very similar things. But what you can do at this point in your life, and we talk a lot to people who are single and looking to make a new relationship, but there's all these things and these models are still really present. So something that was really powerful for me was once I understood that and said, okay, now I know what I don't want. So my modeling of what I don't want is complete. So let's put this aside. Now what do I want? And I started looking around me at the people in my life. And I started looking at relationships and how people treat each other, talk to each other, and just how they talk about each other when the other one isn't there.
Yeah.
Really important stuff. So I started looking for that and seeing whose relationship do I choose to model? Who do I want like that? I look at that relationship. Oh, I want that. I love the way that they blah, 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 whatever it is.
Fill in the blank.
And picking out aspects of relationships that I saw that were just like lit me up. I'm like, yeah, like that. And I started modeling that in my own experience and acknowledging and looking for those good relationships and good communication and good boundaries. And, people who are also very free to express and be authentically who they were. I was not looking for a relationship with a bunch of suppression and lies and you can't, and my husband won't let me. Like, that just doesn't appeal to me at all. I think in general, I don't think it appeals to many people to be told you can't do this. No. But it's especially strong for me. So when I started looking for and modeling those relationships, getting that list of like what's really important to me, and then looking at that list and going, am I the person that can participate in this relationship? And then figuring out what work I needed to do to become that person. And then I went out into the dating pool again and found Jeremy in all of his weird glory. Yeah. He was exactly the right person for the model that I put out there. Like, yeah. Oh, check. We got like a little bit of fuzzy side orders, stuff we're going to have to deal with because we are humans and we met in our 40s, so we already had lifetimes. Of course, there's going to be something to deal with, but is this doable? Is this pile of fuzzy stuff doable? I was like, yeah, it's good. We can get through that.
So let me encourage you, as we're moving towards the end of this, is from what you heard of my story, there's no reason in the world that I could be sitting here next to the love of my life. We're both thriving. Mm-hmm. We both have boundaries and agreements, and our relationship works. We live, work, and raise family together. Everything that I grew up around did not make that possible. But I started taking ownership of my shit a long time ago, and I started doing the really tough personal work so that when she showed up in my life and sat across from me at that Denny's that afternoon, we got engaged 2 weeks later. And this is, I mean,
I mean,
nobody
it's
thinks
a choice. It's a
Yeah.
choice. It's a choice to change this. So you can become a victim of your past, a victim of your past models. And you can always live with those stories like, oh, I'm never going to find somebody. I'm not good enough. It's too late. You know, you can fill yourself with those stories, or you can realize the only common denominator in my life is me.
Yeah.
The only person I can change is me. And when I start looking at how can I be the person that I would want to date, because that's kind of what it is.
Would I date me?
You really do attract someone who's very much like you. And the parts where your opposites should click together, kind of like Legos. Like, there's stuff that he doesn't like that I like, and that's all good. Like, there's no conflict in that. But we aren't the same person, but we fit together in a very unique way. It's kind of like actually two Lego buildings.
Yes.
There's a lot of pieces, and there's some extra pieces.
Because there was a time in my life where if I liked something that my partner didn't, that was like a verboten problem. No, it was going to and it was drama. So as in my personal work, that ever since that relationship was over, I'm like, I'm never putting up with that again. Nor would I put that on my partner, whoever that will be. Mm-hmm. So what she just said is very easy to look over, but there's things that she loves that I just don't care for. And it does not cause drama.
It doesn't need to.
And if she wants to go do that, she has my full support. And vice versa.
Yeah, we exist in a relationship where we support each other to be who we are. And if he wants to go do something that I have no interest in doing, I ask him to find somebody else to do that with, and that works great. It works great for us. So we really want you to look at who is modeling for you. Who are you choosing? Who has already modeled? What models can you take into that category of this is what I don't want and stop following that pattern? And what models, look around you. There's some really cool people in your life that are trying to show you, and you're probably just not seeing them, but they're there. They're around you.
You can get this. You can be the person you want to be. You can have the relationship you want, and you can feel how you want to feel. That's one of our favorite questions is how do you want to feel today? And how do you want to feel when you go to sleep tonight? You have a right to those things, and we want to support you in every way possible and let you know, as far as we're concerned, I don't care what anyone else says, you can do this, and we're here for you. So if you like our content, please like and subscribe, and make sure to comment. We'd love to engage with you and hear how this landed on you, what you think of it, your own stories. Mm-hmm. If you have questions, whatever the case is, if you just want to go, hey, that's fun, whatever, add it in the comment, become part of our group. We're part of this interesting Gen X tribe, and we want you to be a part of it with us.
We're in this together, friends. Let's help each other out.
Talk to you soon.
Ah. Oh. Oh.